start from this image here. And how I got started, this is talking about 16 years ago. Okay, so this is a long time ago. This was my first exposure to use any kind of asymmetrical measure in a sports performance.
好，这可以看到画面上有人在做举重的动作。那这是16年前，那博士他在使用测力板来去检测这个身体的不对称性的状况。
Sports like Olympic weightlifting, the both sides have to move simultaneously at the same time. So this was actually a perfect fit to look at left side and right side asymmetry.
好，那就像在画面中的这个人在做举重一样哈，在举重的动作过程中呢，我们会需要说两边是同时发力的。那在这两边同时发力的这个动作的时候，我们就很容易去使用测力板来去看他的身体的不对称性。
So in this model, we have 3 different measures. One is actually the force plate. So we have a force plate underneath the platform to measure how much force you produce from left side and right side. And then we also have a strain gauge, okay, wire attached to left side and right side of the bar to measure velocity and then also the trajectory of the bar.
好，那在这边呢，画面上我们可以看到3个重点。第一个重点呢是在施力的部分，那施力的部分就是在它的脚底板下，它有一个这个测力板的部分。那第3个重点呢，就分别是速度跟它的这个杠铃在启动的时候它的轨迹。那这时候它就是在天花板上，它有一个感测器，那就在它动作过程中呢，我们就可以测量出这样的数据。
Okay, so from this, I can actually see if somebody is using one side of the leg more than the other side when you actually lift the weights, okay? So you can see the line overlapping means it's a good thing, okay? But if one side is a little bit higher than the other, you're basically using one side more than the other leg.
好，那就是在举重动作上可以看到说，它在施力的过程中，我们看到它测力板这个数字，这个有线的出现。那如果这2条线的过程中它是交叠的话，那代表这是一个好现象，代表它是平均施力的。那如果说它的线呢，它有一高啊一低啊这样的状况出现了，代表说它的施力上是不平均的，它会只有用某一只脚的动作这样。
And then that leads to the next one on looking at the left side and right side asymmetry. And then this is actually done again about 15 years ago when I was with the USA shooting team. Okay, the shooting, sports like shooting for precision, you have to be very, very steady in order to hold the gun, okay, the rifle to shoot the target, right? So we use the force plate to make sure that the line is very steady on every time they make a shot.
好，那这个画面呢是在15年前这个美国的射击队的部分。那在射击的动作里面呢，你必须要很稳定的维持你身体的姿势。那在测力板显示出来的数字或是数据的呈现就会是很平稳的一条直线，因为为了要稳定说你可以好好的稳定的身体姿势，然后让你的枪呢它不会乱动这样子。
So as we are doing this kind of a research project / helping athletes to make sure that what they're doing is correct, okay, the force plate was very useful for us to use on daily training to practice.
好，那在这时候呢，测力板的功用就是说，确保它的每一次它的训练的方向啊，或是进程是正确的。也就是说，他在训练过后呢，或者训练的当下呢，使用测力板来检测说，它的施力的情形啊，等等之类的。
So let's take a look at this image here. Okay, this one is about how to be 50-50 equal balance when you're standing quietly. Okay, so people assume that when you're standing straight and then doing nothing, people just assume you're 50-50, but most people are not 50-50.
好，那在这个画面上可以看到说，我们是如何去我们站着的时候，静止状态下是什么样的状况呢？通常都会是50%在你的左边，50%在你的右边。可是实际上的状况是，当人们静止站着的时候，他的施力状况不会真的是50-50。
The humans have 3 sensory systems to make sure that you're actually equal balance. The one is a visual, very important one, because if you can see, Okay, now you can tell, okay, when you're tilting or straight, okay? And then you have an ear to balance, and then you have a sensory system to balance. So you have 3 different sensory systems.
好，那所以说，在我们在做这个平衡这件事情的时候，身体是会透过3大的这个感觉的系统来维持这件事情。第一个呢是你的视觉的部分，透过视觉的引导呢辅助来确保你是平衡没有倾斜的。第二个呢是在耳朵里面的前庭系统，那它是负责维持你平衡的一个感觉器官这样子。那最后呢是你的体感，就是你身体的自我的感觉是不是在平衡的状态下。
So from the past research, I've been doing this very long time in terms of research about athletic performance to something like very simple tasks like this or exercises. The research is showing that if you are less than 5% of asymmetry, chances are you're very good, okay? You don't have to be 50-50, but if it's less than 5%, you're actually in a good range.
那在过去的研究里面呢，也包括了博士和就以前做的研究里面呢，告诉我们说，如果你的左右的差异是在5%里面的话，那代表你的状态是好的。你不一定要到50%，50%一半一半的状态，但是不要让左右两边的差异差到5%以上。
Okay, and if you're right around 8%, okay, then it's kind of warning. Okay, it means that the 8% is getting up there to be a little bit of asymmetry between left and right.
好，那再来呢是在你第二个要注意的数字是在8% 里面。如果你差不多在8%左右，那代表说你要小心一点点。那可能说你的左右两边的差异呢，开始慢慢的有点大了。
And then when you reach about 15% difference, then you're talking about a lot. Okay, then we start to see the changes in performance. Means that the higher the percentage, of course, some athletic performance actually decrease.
好，那在第3个数字我们要注意到的是，如果你大于15% 的差异啊，那其实这是一个不好的状态。那同时也是代表着说，如果你差异越大的话，你的运动表现会开始做一个下降的动作。
Okay. So, what does that mean when we do any kind of testing or exercise? So this is one example from the isometric task. So you might have seen people doing an isometric exercise by pulling, okay? And then in a slide, we have a little bit of example from squat in isometric or overhead press.
好，那我们如何去做这些测试呢？左右对称性的测试，我们通常会是用等长测试的方式，像是大家常看到的，等长拉、等长的中段拉的动作，或者是你在投影片看到的部分呢，我们有等长的深蹲，或者是等长的过头这个推的动作也是有的。
So in this example, let's say I'm standing in front of the camera, okay? So let's say I'm doing a squat. If I'm actually using more force from this side, okay, everything kind of shifts to that side, or because you're pushing so much from here, you might tilt this side. So sometimes you might notice somebody doing a squat and then the hip shifts because they're using one side more than the other.
好，那就像我们在做深蹲的时候，如果你单像在不是刚刚示范，如果你单只有用你的右脚的话，也许你的身体呢会倾向一边，或者是说因为你用右脚一直推，你的身体会倾向另一边，这2种可能性都是有的。那所以我们会看到很多人在做深蹲的时候，他的骨盆呢会做一个翻转旋转的动作。那这往往都是说，他已经使用某一边用太多了。
So in this case, when I do the coach education courses, a lot of the personal trainers ask me this question: why, when people do squat and then shift the weights, okay? Some people might think it's a flexibility issue, but in this case, it might be purely on neuromuscular favoring one side to use, or simply the muscular strength difference between left and right.
好，那很多我们在做这个教练的教育训练的时候，那有些教练就会问博士说，那为什么他的客户都会有一个转移重心的动作？那其实这不单单只是他的柔软度的问题，另一方面也有可能是他的神经的征召，他很惯性的征召某一边， 或者是说它神经征召它的肌力的部分呢，很惯性的只有征召到某一边，这都是要注意到的。
Okay?